Hello, I am Tony Mortimer. Today's topic is called The Tangle of Theorising. For my details, Google my blog under Buddhism, Nagarjuna, Melbourne, Madhyamika, Middle Way. The blog is a book I compiled together called A Whole New Way of Perceiving the World. The Tangle of Theorising is one chapter in the book. The Tangle of Theorising. Mere speculation has occupied the minds of philosophers for thousands of years. Faced with the mystery of the cosmos, the spirit naturally tries to interpret what it encounters. And where knowledge is lacking, it will fill the void with speculation or myth. When one surveys even the little that is known of philosophical and religious history, and the successive attempts put forward by reason to account for the world and our experience of it, one cannot but marvel at the sheer inventiveness of the human imagination. In view of the fact that reason and logic seem to work well enough in the conventional day-to-day, it is thought it ought to be possible to reason one's way to conclusions that extend beyond the conventional and empirical sphere, such as the beginning of time, the Big Bang, what happens after we die, the existence of God, and so on. This results not in knowledge, but in contradiction. A procedure that appears to give us truth in fact produces only theory and opinion. It is precisely because the Buddha does not immerse himself in theories about phenomena, he is able to discern their true nature, that they lack self-nature. And it is this very discernment that confers liberation. To know things as they truly are is to free oneself from their tyranny. On the other hand, to elaborate theories about phenomena is not only to become engrossed in endless cogitation and verbiage, it is to veil the nature of phenomena even more and to fall even further beneath their spell. One becomes ever more entangled in what can only be productive of further frustration and sorrow. The Buddha declared, to hold that the world is eternal, or to hold that it is not, or to hold that things truly exist, or that they don't truly exist, or that the self truly exists or does not truly exist, or that the Big Bang is the beginning of time, or theories about what happens after death, is all the jungle of theorising, the wilderness of theorising, the tangle of theorising, the bondage and the shackles of theorising, attended by ill will, distress, perturbation, and fever. This is the danger I perceive in these views, which makes me discard them all. So the Buddha says. The Buddha's first task was to wean people away from the gross, naive understanding of worldly beings, their unquestioning belief in the personal self, and the reality of physical objects and mental experiences. Despite the ingrained tendency of all sentient beings to assume the existence of a self and to cling to it, analysis shows that no matter how hard one searches, no self can ever be found. In the same way, by observing the impermanence of physical things and mental events, one can come to an understanding that phenomena, however solid and unchanging they may appear, are in a state of constant momentary flux, or are impermanent. To the uncritical observer, life consists of blocks. It is a collection of individual, discrete realities. But this is an illusion. In its anxiety for reassurance and security, the mind reifies situations and things which it clings to and manipulates in its hopeless quest for lasting satisfaction. In order to expose this procedure as the false trail that it is, the Buddha, which is Nagarjuna, the second Buddha, relentlessly demonstrates the inconsistencies of belief in an unchanging, intrinsically existing in things. He shows that the normal worldview is in fact riddled with contradictions. Even to say that things are real or that they intrinsically exist implies an unchanging permanent entity, which is absurd. It is not our experience. An unchanging permanent entity means something fixed and frozen that doesn't change, and that's why that's an absurd viewpoint. It is important to understand, however, that he is not trying to deny our experience in the phenomenal world. That would be absurd. The world process is all around us, constantly, undeniably. The objects of his critique are not the empirical facts of existence that inescapably appear to us, but the assumptions that we make about these facts. We think that real things give rise to real things, that real things come into being and pass away. But this notion of real, individual, self-contained entities is something that we impose on the raw material or aggregates. It is a figment of our imagination. In fact, there are no real things in this sense. Self-contained entities can never change and can never enter into relationship with other things. The notions of intrinsic entities coming into being or intrinsic entities passing away makes no sense. Thus, Nagarjuna's first stanza announces, "No things are produced anywhere at any time, either from themselves, from something else, from both, or neither." Pretty big statement. The true status of the phenomena that we experience is not, therefore, that they are real, intrinsic, unchanging entities coming into existence, but in their relatedness, their interdependence with all other phenomena. This interdependence undermines the notion of individual intrinsic reality in things. It is the very antithesis of thingness. Phenomena, being the interplay of interdependent factors, are unreal. Their interdependence is their emptiness of intrinsic existence. And common things like time, movement, gain and loss, cause and effect, like a seed causes a tree or a sprout, which we thought to be real, inherent, independent processes, Nagarjuna demonstrates to be also interdependent and not real, independent entities. Nagarjuna's Karikas is his book that he wrote, is an astonishing and disconcerting performance, and the reader is forced to acknowledge that what had previously been taken as the straightforward certainties of existence is nothing but a tissue of naive and ultimately untenable assumptions. The entire worldview commonly accepted to be real by ordinary people is shown to be completely incoherent. If we follow Nagarjuna's arguments, we can see that the common worldview makes no sense. If we think that the things of the world, ourselves included, are as they appear, self-existent and solid, we are not in touch with reality. We are living in a world of mirages. Phenomena appear to be real, but they are insubstantial, dreamlike. We may be tempted to dismiss Nagarjuna's ideas as no more than a curious paradox with little relevance to the facts of experience. Life, after all, goes on, regardless of the theories of philosophers. Nagarjuna could be right, and we may say, but since we are all experience such dreamlike experiences, why question them? What finally is wrong with the way we perceive things? The answer is that there is nothing wrong with it. The issue is not a moral one. We are not condemned for being in samsara. To believe that phenomena are solid real entities is not a sin. It is only a mistake, but a mistake with unfortunate consequences. In his first teaching following his enlightenment, the Buddha did not speak, though he could have done so about the dreamlike nature of samsaric existence. Instead, he referred to a more pressing, less deniable problem, namely that existence, the samsaric dream, is, as a matter of fact, utterly painful. Beings suffer. They are not satisfied. We cannot deny that our lives are plagued by the ills of birth, sickness, old age and death, the inescapable accompaniments of existence. It is true that suffering may be suspended by moments of happiness, but these turn out to be fragile and are marked by a transience that renders them, in the large view, meaningless. The notion that things exist intrinsically or inherently is a deep-rooted misunderstanding that has blinded us to seeing the real state of things, their emptiness. Intrinsic or independent things that don't depend on other things, not only do they not exist, they cannot even conceivably exist. They are like the horns on a rabbit. The horns on a rabbit cannot even conceivably exist. Ordinary people misperceive things to be intrinsically real entities. Only awakened beings realise intrinsic nature is illusory. As such, ordinary beings fail to see the true nature of things, their emptiness. Their minds have been suffused with the poisonous clinging to the real existence of entities. They attach to or cling to people, objects, or concepts, thus creating expectations that result in disappointment, frustration, and pain when these attachments are inevitably disrupted or cease. Moreover, attachment fuels a ceaseless cycle of craving as they chase after the satisfaction and pleasure linked to these attachments. This is like the futile attempt of pursuing a mirage in the desert, hoping the water will quench their thirst. They have become addicted to such an attitude, and their habit is exceedingly strong, with the result that it is hard to abandon. Therefore, in perceiving concrete objects, beings are quite unable to discern their true nature, their lack of substantiality. They are overpowered by false discursive thought, which mistakenly takes such objects to be truly existent things. It is for this reason that all beings fail to perceive the nature of phenomena, their emptiness of intrinsic existence. In exactly the same way, it is by continuously observing a thing that looks the same from moment to moment that the mind is dulled and fails to see or notice the thing's momentary or transitory nature. Their minds are hampered by their mistaken thoughts and they apprehend things amiss. When it states that all things are empty, it does not mean that all things are non-existent. It only means that things do not inherently exist, independently and on their own. In other words, things depend on other things. Like fire, for instance, depends on fuel, oxygen, and a spark. So there are no independent things. Everything is independent. We don't claim non-existence. We merely remove claims for self-existing things. So while all things are empty of inherent existence or intrinsic existence, nonetheless things still appear or show up in some fashion, just like dream images. They show up, but they're empty. Whatever appears, it is impossible for it not to be empty, and if it is empty, it is impossible for it to be nothing. For example, a mirage does appear or show up. Mirages really are mirages, but are not really water, though they might appear to be water. So conventional phenomena really are empty, dependently arisen, nominally real, but are not substantial, independent, existent phenomena, though they might appear to be.